Love at Altitude. Chapter 1. Second First Impressions. The snow outside Samantha's window fell in soft spirals, coating the narrow streets of Buena Vista in a blanket of January stillness. Inside, her tiny rental crackled with warmth from the wood-burning stove, but her heart thudded with the unease that only late-night loneliness could bring. The kids were at their dad's. The wine was half finished. The glow from her laptop illuminated her face like a stage light, casting her as both the audience and the actress in tonight's quiet drama. She stared at the Facebook dating profile on her screen. Jesse M., 44, remote tech consultant, dad of 2, Buena Vista. His photo was low-key. Hiking boots, a gray beanie, that easy smile, no filters, no live laugh love overlays. Just a man standing beside a mountain trail with a thermos in hand and the world behind him. Her thumb hovered. Too wholesome, she whispered. Probably has a collection of survival gear and a conspiracy theory podcast. Still, she read the bio again. Love good coffee, slow mornings, and solving complex problems. Looking for real connection with someone creative and kind? Bonus if you love dogs or detest small talk. She clicked like. 10 minutes later, he matched back. Whoa, that never happened this fast. Not without a, hey gorgeous DM, or some shirtless selfie popping up first. Her heart did a little skip. She wasn't new to dating apps, but she was new to doing it without pretense. No more influencer poses, no curated captions. Just Samantha, divorced, 41, mother of 2, rebranding herself after a failed wellness brand launch and a marriage that dissolved like sugar in warm tea. Her laptop pinged. Jesse. Hi, Samantha. Noticed we live in the same town. Ever wonder if we've already bumped carts at City Market? She smiled despite herself. Samantha. Only if you hang out in the wine aisle, debating between Pinot and Tempranillo. Jesse. I plead guilty. The Rioja is a trap. Do you live full-time in town? Samantha. Yep, moved back last year, relaunching a content brand. You? Jesse. Been here 4 years, work remote, build automations and business systems. Not as glamorous as content creation, but pays the bills. She raised an eyebrow. Automations? Like email sequences? Scheduling tools? Interesting. Samantha. Glamour is overrated. Do you ever help creators? I've been needing to streamline my workflow. He replied almost instantly. Jesse. All the time. Want to grab coffee this weekend? I can trade tech tips for your wine wisdom. Samantha paused. The logical side of her wanted to say no. She'd only just started therapy again, promised herself she'd wait 6 months before another first date. But something about Jesse's tone was different. No pressure, just warmth. And the weekend forecast looked clear. Samantha. Deal. But if you show up in hiking boots, I'm bringing snowshoes. The cafe was called The Steam Plant, a quirky converted firehouse with old brick walls and mismatched mugs. Samantha walked in wearing her favorite chunky sweater and red knit beanie. She scanned the room and froze. Jesse was already seated near the fireplace, but it wasn't her first time seeing him today. She'd just replied to a work inquiry that afternoon from a local business, and the name had stuck with her. Jesse Morrow, the same Jesse. The client who'd reached out about help launching a hybrid local digital platform for boutique shops in the valley. Her stomach did a flip. Was this a cosmic nudge? Or a red flag? Before she could bolt, Jesse looked up and grinned, standing to greet her. Hi, Samantha. You're even more charming without the wine aisle lighting. She smiled, her inner chaos hidden behind practiced warmth. And you're less pixelated in person. They shook hands, his grip steady and warm. As they sat, A wave of curiosity rose in her. Maybe fate wasn't subtle anymore. Maybe it wore hiking boots and liked Rioja. She sipped her oat milk latte as Jessie began talking about how hard it was for small-town businesses to adapt post-COVID. How many lacked digital tools or guidance. And, he added, most of them think Canva is a Greek island. Samantha laughed, but her mind was racing. This man, this kind, grounded man, was clearly building something that might be the perfect match for more than just a date. Chapter 2. The Breakfast Meeting. Jessie wasn't usually nervous before meetings, not the tech ones, anyway. Clients were predictable. They wanted faster systems, cleaner dashboards, or someone to explain why their email automations ghosted half their leads. But this wasn't just a meeting. And Samantha wasn't just anyone. He stirred a second sugar packet into his coffee at the steam plant and glanced towards the entrance again, pretending not to care. The rustic cafe buzzed with the scent of cinnamon and pine wood. Old fire station relics hung on the brick walls, and snow-gloved tourists shuffled past the front window, leaving behind swirling bursts of cold. He spotted her as soon as she walked in. Red beanie, bright eyes, that confident gait people only got after years of knowing how to hide their fear. She scanned the cafe, hesitating for just a beat, and he could see it in her eyes. Recognition. He stood before she could retreat. Hi, Samantha. You're even more charming without the wine aisle lighting. Her smile was practiced, he noticed, but her eyes flickered with something else. Curiosity? Caution? Maybe both. And you're less pixelated in person, she replied, shaking his hand with professional ease. They sat, the moment stretching a bit too long before either of them spoke. Jessie sipped his coffee, buying time. You figured it out, didn't you? He asked gently. Her lips twitched. You're Jessie Morrow, from the email period. He nodded. I didn't realize until after we matched. Thought it might be awkward to say something before we met. Her brow lifted, amusement dancing in her eyes. A tech consultant who doesn't overshare? You're a rare species. I like context before code, he said with a grin. She laughed, finally relaxing into her chair. Well then, context? I was ghosted by your new client 2 years ago after we co-hosted a wellness retreat. It tanked my brand and nearly my marriage. Jessie winced. Ouch. Yeah. She took a sip of her latte. But I guess it's poetic justice that he's coming to you now. I'm not married to the client, Jessie said carefully. I'm just trying to help him rebuild something that works. Honestly, the guy's overwhelmed. Samantha tilted her head, evaluating him. And are you the fixer type, Jessie? He shrugged. I like solving puzzles. I'm not so great with messes that don't come with an API. That made her smile. Not the practiced one, but the real kind. And that gave him courage. Look, I understand if this feels weird, he continued. We can keep this coffee casual, or, if you're open to it, I could use someone who understands content, branding, engagement. I can build systems, but I'm terrible at making them shine. She blinked, surprised. Are you offering me work? On a date? Possibly, he admitted. But only if you're not offended. I've seen your old content. You're good. You made health seem human, relatable. Samantha's face softened. Not flattered exactly, but seen. I've been trying to get back to that. It's just hard, being your own brand, especially when it all fell apart so publicly. I get that, he said. I had a startup fail. Lost my best friend and my wife in the same 6 months. Started freelancing to stay sane. A beat passed. The room buzzed around them, but they sat in a quiet little bubble. You really know how to sell a partnership, she teased. I'm an honest man, terrible marketer. Well, she said, folding her hands around her mug, You're lucky I love fixer-uppers. That made him laugh. Loud, unexpected. And it was in that moment Jesse realized he hadn't felt this light in years. There was something about Samantha. Her bite, her bruised courage, her willingness to show up anyway, that made him want to show up too. Maybe not just for a business idea, maybe for something more. Later that afternoon, Jesse sat at his desk by the window of his home office, staring at the email thread again. From Samantha Kane. Subject: Buena Biz Project. Body: Thanks for the coffee. Still thinking about your client? And your offer? Let's talk more this week. I have some ideas. Jesse smiled. He hit reply. Subject: Buena Biz Project. Body: Same. But I've got one condition for the next meeting. It has to be somewhere scenic. I'm better at brainstorming with mountain views. He hit send and leaned back, watching the sun dip behind the collegiate peaks. Chapter 3: Rivals and Realizations. Samantha hadn't planned to spend the morning cleaning out the junk drawer, but that's where anxiety led her. Pens with no ink, 2 old power cords, and an expired gift card to the Rock House Cafe, all dumped onto the table in a restless flurry. Her phone buzzed on the counter, but she ignored it. Again. Jesse's message was still open on her screen. Still want to brainstorm? Saturday's forecast looks perfect. I've got a favorite trail just past Cottonwood Pass. Not too steep. Pack a thermos? It was a perfectly innocent invitation. Scenic. Low pressure. Maybe even romantic. But her stomach had twisted into knots since reading it. Because saying yes meant something. Saying yes meant trusting her instincts again. And trusting him. She dropped into the kitchen chair, rubbing her temples. What are you doing, Sam? The last time she'd mixed business and trust, it had ended with her name left off a product launch, her accounts wiped clean of a year's worth of content, and a searing voicemail from a partner who'd blamed her for pivoting too slow. She'd poured heart and time into that brand, Embody Wellness, only to see it absorbed by her ex-business partner, and, rumor had it, pitched to a VC without her. And now Jesse Morrow was working with him? She reached for her phone and scrolled through her inbox. There it was. From Jesse Morrow. Subject: Collab Thoughts. Hey, got time to brainstorm this weekend? No pressure, but I'd love to sketch out some ideas. I think there's real potential here, Sam. Real potential. He made it sound so easy. But the truth was, she wanted to say yes. She wanted to believe that 2 people with scars and skills could build something better, cleaner, together. No false starts, no curated veneers, just honest-to-goodness work that mattered. Her finger hovered over the reply icon when Naomi's voice called from the hallway. Mom? You forgot to sign the field trip form again. Samantha winced. Coming! Later that afternoon, Samantha stood in the living room, arms crossed, staring at the vision board she'd propped against the mantel. She hadn't touched it in months. It still had magazine clippings from her old brand, people doing yoga at sunrise, holding green smoothies, laughing in neutral-toned linen. It looked fake now. She picked up a pen and, without thinking too much, scrawled a new phrase in the margin. Build something real. She took a photo of it and attached it to her message. Samantha. Let's hike. I've got some ideas too. I'll bring the thermos if you bring the tech. Within a minute, his response came back. Jesse. Deal. I'll bring the trail snacks, and maybe a secret prototype or 2. She chuckled, couldn't help it. There was a boyishness to him under the calm exterior. He was the kind of man who carried tools in his trunk just in case someone's bumper came loose, who probably owned one of those all-weather notebooks and actually used it. The buzz of her phone pulled her attention again. This time, a voicemail. She pressed play. Hey, Sam, it's Lauren. I know it's been a while. I saw Jesse added you on LinkedIn and, well, I just wanted to give you a heads up. He's great, but he's still connected to Craig. Just be careful, okay? Her throat went dry. Craig, the very partner who'd cost her everything. She stared at the carpet, phone limp in her hand. Trust. That was the theme of the week, wasn't it? Could she? That evening, as she folded laundry and tried to clear her thoughts, her daughter Joy flopped onto the bed beside her, earbuds dangling from one ear. You have that storm cloud face again? Joy said. Are you fighting with Instagram again? Samantha laughed, short and surprised. Number just thinking about working with someone new. Joy raised an eyebrow. A guy? Someone? Samantha didn't answer. Joy shrugged. I mean, you're always telling me to take smart risks. Jump in with both boots, right? That's snow, not startups. Same vibe. Samantha stared at her daughter, so bold, so sure. Joy didn't remember the years before the divorce, the messiness. She saw her mother now, clawing her way back, and maybe that was enough. She grabbed her phone and sent one more message. Samantha, let's aim for 9 a.m. I'll bring real mugs. Paper cups are for amateurs. Saturday morning, snow glistened off pine needles as Samantha zipped up her parka. A ceramic thermos clinked against her bag, packed with oat milk lattes and 2 still warm breakfast burritos. She caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror. Wind-chapped lips, flushed cheeks, hopeful eyes. Something in her shifted. She wasn't just going for a hike. She was stepping into something new. Something real. Chapter 4. High Altitude, High Emotions. The trailhead parking lot crunched under Jesse's boots as he stepped out of his Subaru. The air was crisp, tinged with pine and possibility, and snow still clung to the shady creases of Cottonwood Pass. He adjusted his day pack and turned toward the sound of tires skimming gravel. Samantha pulled up in a silver SUV that looked like it had survived both motherhood and mountain life. The door opened, and she stepped out holding a thermos and 2 mismatched ceramic mugs like they were sacred cargo. No paper cups, huh? He said, grinning. She lifted an eyebrow. I take caffeine and aesthetics equally seriously. Jessie chuckled and offered a hand as she balanced the bag on her shoulder. Welcome to my favorite thinking trail. Not too steep, just enough incline to clear the cobwebs. Samantha surveyed the snow-dusted trail winding into the evergreens. You trying to impress me with metaphors already? Maybe, he admitted. Or maybe I believe the best ideas come when your heart's pumping a little harder. Sounds like dating advice, she quipped. And just like that, the tension eased. They walked side by side in relative quiet at first. Boots crunching over packed snow, steam rising from mugs, the sound of a nearby stream gurgling under its icy armor. About a mile in, Jessie stole a glance at her. You hike a lot? Used to, before the wellness empire crashed and burned. She smiled without bitterness. Now I hike when I need answers, or silence. He nodded. Same. This place helped me after the divorce. And after my buddy, well, it's complicated. She stopped walking and turned to him. You don't have to tell me everything, but you can. He looked down at the trail, then back at her. His name was Drew. We built a tech startup together. First big client failed. We turned on each other. I blamed him. He blamed me. We haven't spoken in years. Lost him and my wife in the same summer. Samantha's eyes softened. That's a brutal combo. He shrugged. Therapy helps, so do hikes. They kept walking, the silence now companionable. Halfway up a small overlook, they found a flat boulder and sat. Samantha pulled burritos from her bag and handed one over like a peace offering. Breakfast burrito diplomacy. Better than LinkedIn therapy, Jessie said with a laugh. As they unwrapped foil and watched the valley spread out below, she asked, "Why do you still work with Craig?" He blinked. "You know about Craig?" "Lauren warned me. He ghosted me 2 years ago. Took our wellness collab and pitched it without telling me." Jessie exhaled slowly. "I didn't know that. He mentioned a partner once. Said things got messy." "I was the messy." He studied her. "If I'd known, I wouldn't have touched that project." She held his gaze. "Good to know, because I've got something better in mind." Jessie raised an eyebrow. "Tell me." Samantha reached into her bag and pulled out a folded sketch pad. "It's rough, but what if we combined my audience building and content design with your automation tools? A local first biz toolkit. Custom packages for solopreneurs in towns like ours. Social, scheduling, email flows, tutorials, all in one." Jessie blinked, then grinned. "You want to build a business together?" "I want to build something real," she said, "with someone who shows up." He leaned back on his hands, taking in the sky above them. "It's a solid idea," he said after a beat. "Like, actually really good." "Then say yes." "I want to," he said quietly. "But this—" He gestured between them. "It scares me more than the pitch deck." "Why?" "Because if it works, it changes everything. And if it doesn't—" He looked away. "I don't want to lose something real again." She reached over, her fingers brushing his. "You won't." For a moment, everything stilled. The wind, the clouds, even the distance between them. Jessie leaned closer, his breath warm in the cold air. Their eyes locked. And then he pulled back. We should keep hiking. Warm up." Samantha blinked, retreating into her coat. "Right. Don't want to let the burritos freeze." They stood, packed up. But something between them had cracked open, tender, real, and unresolved. As they turned back toward the trail, Jessie felt the weight of what had almost happened, and the fear that next time, he might not have the strength to stop it. Chapter 5. The Idea. Samantha stood in the middle of her kitchen, surrounded by sticky notes, half-drunk coffee, and a wild energy that had nothing to do with caffeine. She hadn't slept much after the hike. The conversation, the almost kiss, Jessie's quiet pullback, it had all rewound in her head like a looped reel. But instead of spiraling, she'd started sketching. Now, 2 legal pads and a Canva mock-up later, her fingers were flying across the keys. She was building the pitch. The idea had cracked open something inside her. It wasn't just a business. It was a chance to reclaim what she'd lost. Not the brand or the followers, but the purpose, the work that mattered, and the chance to do it with someone who saw behind the filters. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jessie. "Jessie. Morning. Still thinking about the toolkit. Want to talk later?" Samantha. "Yes, I built a mock-up. I'll show you. When's good?" Jessie. "I'm at Trailhead Co-op." "Grab a booth?" She grabbed her coat, loaded her laptop, and barely remembered to comb her hair before flying out the door. Trailhead Co-op was half co-working space, half artisanal coffee shop, tucked in a corner building just off Main Street. The walls were covered in murals painted by local artists, wildflowers, mountain peaks, dogs wearing sunglasses. Jessie was tucked into a corner booth, hoodie sleeves pushed to his elbows, laptop open, eyes scanning code like it was poetry. "Hey," she said, setting her bag down. He looked up and smiled, not wide, but warm. "Hey, want something to drink?" "Only if you're ordering," she said. "I trust your taste." He grinned and stood, leaving her a moment to breathe. Butterflies stirred low in her belly. The good kind. The "oh no, I like him" kind. When he returned with 2 lattes and a caramel scone, she already had her laptop open. "Okay," she said, pulling up her screen. "This is what I was thinking." She walked him through the homepage layout. The idea, a subscription-based business accelerator for small-town solopreneurs, part tech tools, part content strategy. She'd lead workshops and build audience guides. He'd automate client funnels, track ROI, and provide back-end structure. Monthly themes, a podcast, maybe even in-person retreats. Jessie leaned in, nodding slowly. "You thought this through." "I've had energy," she said, avoiding his eyes. "Couldn't sleep." He clicked through the wireframes. "You designed all this since yesterday?" Samantha shrugged. "I do chaos well, especially after emotionally complicated hikes." That made him laugh. "Well, the UX is solid, the copy's strong. Honestly, it's better than half the paid programs I've seen." She looked up. "So, you're in?" Jessie didn't answer immediately. He studied the screen, then her. "I'm in," he said softly, "but not just for the tools. I want to build this with you. As a real partner. 50-50, no ghosting, no disappearing. And if this ever gets complicated..." He paused. "We talk. No matter what." Her throat tightened. "Deal." He offered his hand across the table. She took it, and neither of them let go right away. Later, as they strolled down Main Street, Samantha tucked her hands into her coat pockets to keep from reaching for his again. Everything felt like a breath being held, new, delicate, precious. They passed the window of a small clothing boutique. A sign read, "New owners coming soon. Local roots, fresh vision?" She grinned. "Even the shops are cheering us on." He glanced at her sideways. "Do you think we're jumping in too fast?" "Probably," she said. "But maybe that's the point." He nodded slowly. "I think I needed someone brave enough to jump first." She stopped walking, looked at him fully. "Then catch up, Jessie." And this time, he was the one who reached for her hand. Chapter 6. The Launch and the Letdown. Jessie stared at the blinking cursor on his screen like it owed him an apology. The brand site was live. The email workflows were humming along. 3 clients had already signed up for early access. Everything should have felt electric. But all he felt was tight-chested and foggy. The launch was today. The soft debut of Local Lift, their small-town business accelerator. Samantha had posted a brilliant teaser reel on Instagram that morning, a behind-the-scenes cut of them sketching ideas on a whiteboard, laughing over scones, and standing shoulder to shoulder outside Trailhead Co-op. "Big news coming. Stay rooted, dream big. Local Lift. Colorado Biz," her caption had read. The comments were flooding in, old followers cheering her on, new ones asking when they could join. But Jessie hadn't replied to her last message. Not yet. He closed his laptop and walked to the window, watching snowflakes swirl down Buena Vista's quiet main street. He'd told Samantha he needed space today, just a few hours to get his head on straight. She'd smiled and said okay. But now, it had been almost 24. The truth was, the past was creeping back in. It started with the email from Craig. Short, Director. "Saw your soft launch with Samantha. Bold move. Call me if you want to avoid déjà vu." And then, the message from his ex-wife. I hope this works out for you, Jessie. Just be careful not to mix business and feelings again. He hadn't replied to either, but they landed, and they burrowed. He thought he'd healed, thought he was ready to start fresh. But old wounds had a way of flaring up when things got good, because that's when he usually messed them up. He didn't show up to the pitch. They'd agreed to meet with a local community co-op, their first big group client, a contract that could bring in 12 small businesses at once and give local Lyft real legs. Samantha texted at 10:55. Here early. They brought muffins. You okay? At 11:08. Starting soon. I'll lead. No worries. At 12:14. It went well. No anger. No guilt trip. Just grace. That almost hurt more. That evening, Jesse stood in front of the fireplace, still in yesterday's flannel, guilt gnawing at the edge of his ribs. His phone buzzed again. Samantha. A photo. Her standing in front of a chalkboard that read, Local Lyft. Powered by passion, not perfection. The caption, they signed. 12 out of 12. I brought your wireframes. They loved the dashboard preview. Another message followed. I don't need you to be perfect, Jesse. I need you to show up. When you're ready, I'm still here. He read it 3 times, then opened his calendar, then shut his laptop, then grabbed his keys. Chapter 7, Love at Altitude. Samantha. The loft smelled like hope and cinnamon. Samantha lit the last candle on the display table and stepped back, surveying the space. It looked even better than she'd imagined. The fairy lights strung between beams, the photo wall glowing with warmth, the branded swag table stacked with hand-stamped notebooks and tote bags. But for a brief moment, the hum of setup faded and her heart beat louder than the music. She pulled out her phone and scrolled back. Back to the days of Embody Wellness, when her brand was a filter. Her partnerships were all strategy, and her marriage was already cracking at the seams, smiling in all the pictures, exhausted behind them. Now she was here, still standing, stronger, scarred, and finally seen. She tapped open her photo gallery and snapped one more shot, just the glow of the loft, the snow outside the window, the empty coffee mugs lined on the table. Captioned it, Building Something Real. Local Lyft, Chapter 2. Then her phone buzzed. Jesse. Look outside. Jesse. He stood in the falling snow with a slightly crooked bouquet of wildflowers and nerves buzzing like static beneath his coat. Samantha stepped out, wrapped in her wool coat and quiet fire. Is this your dramatic rom-com gesture? She asked, arms crossed, lips tugging into a smile. He lifted the bouquet with a sheepish shrug. It's missing a boombox, but yeah. She stepped forward but didn't take the flowers. You disappeared, she said. You didn't show up. I know, Jessie said, voice low. I let fear win, again. I let the ghosts talk louder than the truth. But I came back, because the truth is, I don't want to build anything without you. Her eyes searched his. Why now? He swallowed. Because I realized I already trust you, and I've been so afraid of messing it up that I almost missed the chance to get it right. A beat passed. Then she took the flowers. Then his face. Then, finally, his lips. The kiss was slow and solid, like stepping onto frozen ground and finding it steady. Her hands curled behind his neck. His rested at her waist. The snow didn't dare interrupt. When they broke apart, they both let out breathless, quiet laughter. You sure you're ready? She whispered. I am, he said. For all of it. The launch, the late nights, The weird TikTok trends? You? She smiled. Then get in here, partner. You've got a party to co-host. Later that night. The loft buzzed with warmth and conversation. Small business owners milled between tables, sipping spiced cider, swapping cards, and snapping selfies with the local lift backdrop. Laughter and hope filled the space like the scent of cinnamon and cedar. Jesse clinked his mug and tapped the mic. Hi, everyone. I'm Jesse, and this is Samantha. And we're the chaos team behind Local Lift. Laughter. We started this idea over burritos and a hike, he continued. We wanted to create something that didn't ask small-town dreamers to act like big city startups. We wanted real tools, real people, real connection. Samantha stepped up beside him. And as two people who have both failed spectacularly at least once, we believe that starting over is not just possible, it's powerful. A ripple of applause. Then, to their surprise, one of their pilot clients, Margot, the owner of a small pottery studio, stood up, holding a cider in one hand and a slightly paint-smeared phone in the other. I just want to say, she called out, before Local Lift, I was running my business out of a Google Doc and prayer. Now I've got a real booking system, a newsletter that doesn't go to spam, and a reel with 22,000 views. These two? They didn't just help me grow. They reminded me why I started. The room clapped. Some cheered. Samantha blinked quickly and squeezed Jesse's hand. He leaned into the mic again. Thank you, Margot, and thank you all for trusting us, for showing up, and for proving that sometimes the best altitude is right here at home. Applause erupted. As the music picked back up and lights dimmed to golden, Samantha and Jesse stepped aside, backs against the wall, watching their dream in motion. You good? She asked. I'm better, he said, eyes on her. Because I didn't build this alone. She rested her head on his shoulder, and outside the window, the mountains stood tall in the starlight, quiet witnesses to love, redemption, and the bold, risky beauty of trying again.